When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line. When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path. On the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline, Passport, and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, whenever we want to get updates for things that are happening here in Terrebonne Parish, best place to do that, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office and Blake Tabor. Blake, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me as always.
All right, we appreciate it. Look, I get excited when we read about these cases where you guys do such good work. This is a rather unique case. Really glad it was come to fruition with some people off the streets.
Yeah, this is a good one. And you know, as we're going to get into this case, it's going to be a really good teaching tool, too, for the public. So,
good.
Again, this sort of came to a head in August of last year where we began receiving some information through our narcotics division about a person in the 1300 block of Highway 55 that was having some illegal drug activity or appeared to have some illegal drug activity taking place at the house.
Okay.
Of course, anytime our narcotics agents get involved, they do a preliminary review of all of this information because we know that not all information we get is truthful.
Correct.
But they have their ways of determining what is true and what is not. And when they did, they were able to link that particular house to a Jesse LeBlanc in the 1300 block. And addition to that, they were able to confirm that there was some actual drug activity taking place. You see him photographed here. Ultimately, as they began to get into this case, they learned that Mr. LeBlanc was accepting stolen items from people as payment for the illegal narcotics. So again, that's sort of twofold. Again, you know, you have the illegal drug activity, but then you have a large amount of stolen items that are switching hands. And we all know from people down the Bayou area, that's a rampant problem down there that, you know, anytime we get an opportunity to jump on that, we want to solve that very quickly.
Right.
So again, anytime that particular information comes to light, of course, now we have our detectives division that is involved in that, our property crimes division. We have our criminal patrol division. Here in comes our intelligence unit who can assist with all of those in-tech stuff that we deal with. So again, they all came and now it becomes this joint investigation, which is really difficult for a suspect to have to deal with.
All right.
So ultimately on January 27th, everything sort of came to a head where our narcotics agents, along with some members of those particular divisions, performed a search warrant at a house in the 1300 block of Highway 55. Ultimately, they located multiple occupants, 5 people to be exact, 3 of which are Jesse Paul LeBlanc. He's a 41-year-old male. You see him photographed here. Sean Pellegrin, 43 years old. You see him photographed there. And a Janae Duplantis, 37-year-old female. There were 2 additional occupants who were not arrested in conjunction with this investigation, so we're not naming them at this point. But ultimately, at the culmination of that particular search warrant, they located methamphetamines, heroin, marijuana, prescription-based medication in multiple forms, 6 firearms, drug paraphernalia that's linked to distribution activities, and close to $2,700 in cash, which we feel is a very big score. In addition to that, we found some other items that were determined to be stolen, one of which was a boat motor and trailer valued at over $15,000 that was from a victim in Lafourche Parish. And we're glad to say that we were able to return that item back to that particular victim.
Wow.
So ultimately, you know, Jesse LeBlanc was arrested for a multitude of drug charges and theft charges. He's currently in jail on a no bond warrant by local judges.
Nice.
Sean Pellegrin, very similar charges: possession of CDS-1 heroin, possession of drug paraphernalia, and also some outstanding warrants unrelated to this investigation where he's been held on a no bond. And then also Janae Duplantis, arrested on CDS-1 heroin, possession of a legend drug without prescription, possession of drug paraphernalia, transactions involving proceeds from drug offenses, illegal carrying of a weapon in the presence of CDS, and also possession of firearm by convicted felon. So she also remains jailed on an $88,000 bond by local judges at this point in time.
Yeah, and so you mentioned one of those things. If you've got a boat, motor, and trailer, it's registered and people know it's yours. But when we have other things, we want to be a little bit more vigilant. Let's talk a little bit about how people can maybe protect their own items, things that they buy.
Absolutely. And look, and we talk about this all the time, right, with victims specifically. Let's say, Keith, you go in, or we just got through the holiday, and let's say your family bought you a 6-piece Ryobi tool set from Home Depot.
And they did, interestingly enough,
right?
From Home Depot.
So hopefully you take my advice and go document this.
Yes, I have.
But you get this, you get this tools, and you're so excited to use them. You get to work. Guess what? 3 years later, your shed is burglarized. You haven't documented the serial numbers. You haven't put your initials on them. There's no identifying marks. But we find some Ryobi tools not that far from your house, right? And you say, oh, those are my tools. How do we as law enforcement definitively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, prove that those are your items? The only way for us to do that is by you documenting the serial number. Right. And so there's some tips and tricks that you can do in order to do that, and it'll make life a lot easier on you, and it'll make these law enforcement officers who have to deal with the theft of your property very, very happy.
Yeah, and it's simple. When you get that information, that little warranty information, just fill it out, send it in.
Absolutely.
And then now it can trace that back to you.
Absolutely.
It says, this is mine, this is when I got it. And, it could be something as, $150, $200 worth of drills, or it could be a boat worth $15,000.
Absolutely.
Make sure your stuff is documented, and it's a way to protect yourself. It's simple. It's easy. Go through those steps to be able to do that.
And look, everyone has a phone nowadays. It's as simple as taking each tool, taking a picture of the serial number on it, taking a picture of the item, and then leaving it in your phone. Right? It can stay there forever. Or other option is make you a spreadsheet on the computer.
Yeah.
Which is what we've done.
Okay.
And we do that
nice
for a lot
idea.
of cases. That way, if anything is ever stolen from your house, you can say, oh, my TV on the outside of my house was stolen. Do you have the serial number? As a matter of fact, I do. And you're going to get a big smile from this officer. It's going to make it a lot easier, and it's going to make it a lot easier to find your stuff.
Right. And when it is found, make it a whole lot easier to get it back to
Absolutely.
you, like they did with the boat, motor, and trailer.
Absolutely.
Some great ideas. Now you got me next weekend that it's warm. I get to spend time in my garage documenting all of the tools that I have.
Absolutely.
And just making sure that we're protecting ourselves. My trailer is the other thing.
Absolutely.
Document that. Make sure you have that, because those are easy enough to take. Blake, appreciate the updates. Thanks for getting those 3 off the streets.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment, but don't go anywhere. A whole lot more right here on Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.